When you think of African football, Samuel Eto'o is never far away. Big mouth, shaved head, and above all, fiery legs. The Cameroonian shone wherever he played. That World Cup, though a little somber, took place in 1990, the year of German reunification. It was also a historic year for Africa. After half a century of decolonization during the Italian World Cup, won by those same Germans, Cameroon delivered a legendary performance, a heartfelt cry, a return to heroic history. The indomitable Lions defeated Maradona's Argentina, then Colombia, then Romania. They finally fell to England 3-2 in the quarterfinals. Samuel Eto'o was only 9 years old at the time, but for him, for Drogba, for Touré, and for millions of African kids, Cameroon's success lit a new path of hope. Fascinated by Roger Milla, young Samuel dreamed of becoming great. The first problem when arriving from Africa, the cold. In Africa, there's no winter. He had to adapt to winter, adapt to a new language, adapt to new food. Those were the first battles he had to fight. After unsuccessful trials in France, Eto'o convinced Real Madrid in 1996. At just 15, he signed his first professional contract with the Merengues. Between 1997 and 1999, Samuel was loaned to Leganés, then to Espanyol. But none of those clubs truly trusted him. The result? A timid season and a half. Only 4 goals in Spain's second division. At 19 years old, Eto'o was still waiting patiently for his chance. In January 2000, a loan move to Mallorca finally changed everything. 13 matches, 6 goals in La Liga, including a memorable double at Camp Nou, another double against Betis, and a final goal against Atletico. Eto'o began making his name in Spain, helping Mallorca avoid relegation. In 2000, they bought him from Real Madrid, and though not yet a star, he was ready to shine on the world stage. Since his first World Cup appearance in 1998, the teenage Eto'o had already become a star back home. At the 2000 Africa Cup of Nations, Cameroon arrived as outsiders. But with a rejuvenated squad and their young number 9, the indomitable Lions won their 3rd African title, scoring in the quarterfinals, scoring in the semifinals, scoring in the final. Eto'o was one of the key architects of Cameroon's success. At 19, Samuel Eto'o aimed for more glory at the Sydney Olympics. Cameroon, trailing 2-0 against Spain, fought back with an own goal and a strike from Eto'o. After a tense penalty shootout, they won gold, Eto'o's 2nd international title before turning 20. Gone were the uncertain loan spells and the time spent on the bench. Eto'o was finally playing for a club that trusted him. Before his return from the Olympics, Mallorca had just 1 point in 4 matches. With their number 9 back, Luis Aragonés' team made an exceptional comeback. 2 consecutive wins, against Barca and against Real Madrid, made headlines. Mallorca had never been stronger, finishing 3rd in La Liga. The best result in the club's history at that time. Eto'o already saw himself as a star, and he couldn't stand being substituted by Luis Aragonés, even though the coach would later become a spiritual father figure to him. Sometimes things got heated. In 2002, the Africa Cup of Nations was held in Mali. 2 years after their previous title, the indomitable Lions wore their iconic green sleeveless shirts. True to form, Cameroon didn't concede a single goal during the tournament. The match ended 0-0. Victory came after a dramatic penalty shootout. It was Cameroon's 4th African title. 4 months after scoring his first World Cup goal, Eto'o couldn't help Cameroon advance. In January 2003, Mallorca faced Real Madrid in the 2nd leg of the Copa del Rey quarterfinals. Before kickoff, Eto'o tried to keep up appearances, greeting his former teammates. But every time he touched the ball, his hunger for revenge was obvious. With a mischievous double, Eto'o crushed the Merengues. The taste of vengeance reawakened something fierce in the Mallorca striker. 14 goals in La Liga, plus 3 in the Cup, propelling Mallorca into the Copa del Rey final scheduled for late June. But for now, his country was calling him to France for the Confederations Cup. On a summer night at the Stade de France in 2003, Cameroon became the first senior national team to defeat Brazil in an official match. Fueled by this historic feat, the Lions advanced past the group stage. Eto'o was then authorized to return to Spain to play in the Copa del Rey final with Mallorca. There, as team leader, he scored twice, delivering Mallorca its first major trophy in history. Meanwhile, Cameroon defeated Colombia in the semi-finals. Samuel didn't have time to celebrate. He had to rush back to France for the final. Winning would have been great, but above all, the match was about honoring Marc-Vivien Foé, who had died from a heart attack during the semi-final. Cameroon lost the final, 1-0, after extra time. But the essential thing was elsewhere. French, Cameroonian, and all spectators at the Stade de France united in tribute to Marco. After 3 years filled with success and emotion, Samuel had just written one of the most beautiful pages in Cameroonian football history. In December 2003, he was voted African Player of the Year. Already a legend at home, Samuel now had to prove himself in Europe. During the 2003 to 2004 season, Mallorca likely would have been relegated without Eto'o's influence. With 17 more goals, Samuel became the club's all-time top scorer in La Liga. Each match, experts wondered, why was he still playing for a mid-table club? On match day 36, Mallorca traveled to the Santiago Bernabéu, a stadium that had become Eto'o's playground. Among the Galacticos, Eto'o once again stood tall. At the end of the season, one thing was clear. The boy from Yaoundé had everything needed to become one of the greats, but to do that, he had to leave the island. In July 2004, Eto'o joined Barcelona for 27 million euros. For months, Joan Laporta had made him a priority and had to battle Real Madrid, who still owned half of Eto'o's rights. In his first season in Catalonia, Eto'o adapted with stunning ease. In November, his main competitor Henrik Larsson suffered a serious knee injury during El Clásico, a match where Eto'o punished both Casillas and Roberto Carlos. Eto'o remained crucial for Barca as they turned their domination into trophies. Although he still hated being substituted mid-match, his passion brought immense energy to the club. Fast and technical, he became a nightmare for Spanish defenses, beloved by Ronaldinho, Xavi, Deco, and even young Messi. At the end of 2004, Eto'o won his second African Ballon d'Or and scored 24 La Liga goals, just one behind Forlan. In May 2005, trailing against Levante, Eto'o scored to help Barca win their first league title in 6 years. With new stars rising, Barca set their sights on dominating Europe too. In 2006, Eto'o faced his first major disappointment with the national team, missing a crucial penalty against Côte d'Ivoire in the Africa Cup of Nations quarterfinals. But Samuel stayed focused on his club season. Barca pulled ahead in La Liga and shifted their focus to the Champions League. In the round of 16, Barca faced Chelsea at a rain-soaked Stamford Bridge. Ronaldinho was quiet. Messi dazzled but couldn't score. At 1-1, it was Samuel who delivered the decisive goal, pushing Barcelona through. Thanks to a rock-solid defense, Barca knocked out Benfica in the quarterfinals, then AC Milan in the semis. And Barca were into the final. Barcelona had been chasing the Champions League trophy for 2 years. In a tough final against Arsenal, who played most of the match with 10 men, Eto'o scored the crucial equalizer. Thanks to his effort and a bit of luck, Barca ultimately lifted the trophy. At the end of 2006, a disappointing 6th place in the Ballon d'Or standings only fueled his hunger for more titles. At 25, Ronaldinho was still the face of Barcelona. But Eto'o had just completed 4 world-class seasons, and he was only getting started. Injuries began to slow Eto'o, causing him to miss around 50 matches over 2 years. With Ronaldinho declining, Barca lost the Club World Cup final and the La Liga title during 2 consecutive trophyless seasons. Things weren't better with Cameroon either. Eto'o led Cameroon at the 2008 AFCON, finishing as top scorer. But despite his efforts, the Lions lost the final to Egypt. In the summer of 2008, Joan Laporta demanded changes. The Ronaldinho era was coming to an end, but no one yet knew if Eto'o would be part of the new project. Pep decided to line him up at the point of attack, alongside Henry and the young Messi, whom he particularly nurtured. After a rocky start, the chemistry finally clicked. In Guardiola's Barca, there was Xavi, Iniesta, and Messi, but the one who finished the plays was Eto'o. In the 2008 to 2009 season, Samuel scored 36 goals in 52 matches, including a double in just 32 minutes. The statistics of Samuel that season were astonishing. In May, Barca achieved a historic double: Copa del Rey and La Liga. A week later, the Catalans faced Manchester United in the Champions League final. 10 minutes into the game, it was Uncle Sam who opened the scoring. Later, Messi sealed the win with his famous header, giving Barca a 2-0 victory. At the final whistle, the Catalan people erupted in joy. But behind the smiles and hugs, the divorce between Eto'o and Barca was already looming. In the summer of 2009, Barcelona spent 45 million euros to bring in Zlatan Ibrahimovic, sending Samuel Eto'o to Inter Milan as part of the deal. The mission awaiting him was immense: to win the Champions League again, nearly 50 years after Inter's last triumph. Under Jose Mourinho, Eto'o adapted to a very different style of football, a compact 4-1-4-1 setup built on defensive rigor rather than possession. Across 48 matches, he scored just 16 goals, his lowest tally since 2002. But Samuel understood. Titles were more important than personal glory. He never hesitated to sacrifice himself for the team. During the second leg of the Champions League semi-final against Barcelona, after Thiago Motta's harsh red card just 30 minutes in, Eto'o dropped back to play as a left-back. Inter resisted, endured, and booked their place in the final. Already crowned champions of Italy and winners of the Italian Cup, Inter went on to complete a historic treble. In less than a year, Eto'o had already written his name into the club's history books. Scoring 9 goals during the qualifiers and shining again during the 2010 World Cup, Eto'o's efforts were not enough to help Cameroon get past the group stage, a goal that would remain an eternal fantasy. In December 2010, Samuel won the Club World Cup with Inter, the last title missing from his club career. At 29, the Lion had won everything there was to win in Europe. That season, Eto'o scored 37 goals for Inter, including 8 in the Champions League, simply the best stats of his career. In the summer of 2011, Samuel left Lombardy for Anzhi Makhachkala in Dagestan, becoming the highest-paid footballer in the world at the time. We could have talked about his memorable spell at Chelsea, his success at Antalyaspor, or his final moments with Cameroon. But we prefer to remember Eto'o at the peak of his art. Samuel won everything, but he never did things like everyone else. He played alongside the best, convinced he was better than all of them. Eto'o followed in the footsteps of a nation's icon and ultimately became a legend of football himself.